And we are now live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the No Limit Fantasy Sports podcast. We're talking DFS. We're talking week 13. And this episode of the live stream / audio podcast, we're going to be talking about some consistency ratings for players. Players that are inconsistent. Inconsistent is a negative connotation, but it really isn't. If you really think about it, inconsistent is not a bad thing. How is inconsistent any worse than being consistent, right? So like someone at work, they're very consistent. You think that's a good thing. But how about if they suck every day? Every day they're consistently late. Every day they consistently lose the company money. Every day they have an attitude. Every day they're not productive on the same exact level that person is consistent. So it's really just our society, just how we convey words. Words are just different. Consistent versus inconsistent. Neither one is better or worse necessarily. Same thing applies in DFS. Hopefully that made sense. I gave you an example that makes sense. Listen to me. It's true. All right. If you're consistently bad at something, and you're the worst, you're consistently the worst at something, I'd rather take someone who's inconsistent, who sometimes comes through once a week or every other day, produces and does well, and then slacks off on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and then does great work Mondays, Wednesdays, Friday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I know the days. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about that. So now that we got the connotations out the way, let's jump right into consistency. So, consistent players, for those of you that play season-long fantasy sports, this is everything, right? No matter what you're doing, any fantasy sport that goes head-to-head, so you have an opponent and your goal that week is to beat that opponent. So whether it's baseball or football or basketball, most leagues are head-to-head format where you go against a given opponent every week. And in those leagues, consistency is very important. You want consistent players like Julian Edelman. I want to use Lamar Jackson as a very consistent player, but that's he's just like the best player. Who else is consistent? Ryan Tannehill, guys like that. You want on your team, like Julian Edelman, every week, man, he does what he does, right? He gets a ton of targets, ton of receptions, moves the chains. You want consistent players like that, players you can rely on, because it gets rid of all that variation, and you get to edge out your opponent. You make your opponent lose. And so we want consistency in DFS when it comes to cash games. Cash games are head-to-head. Cash games are 50-50. Cash games are double-ups. We want consistent players we can rely on, because cash games, the award, the prize is never that big. It's not insanely big. So you theoretically have to put in more. You have to buy in for more, and you get less. So you want to keep the score theoretically close to your opponent, but edge him out because you made smarter decisions that players you can rely on. And that's what consistency is. For GPPs, for tourneys, it's actually the opposite. You want inconsistent players. Now, this is everything. As far as DFS goes, when I talk DFS strategy, everything is generalization. Like, I'm not going to look at the NFL lines and that means I'm going to win. I'm not going to look at the weather and that means I'm going to win. Not going to look at an offense and be like, I'm going to win. All these are just gives you a higher percentage chance of winning. A lot of these strategies and tips might give you about a 1% greater chance of winning, maybe even a 0.2% greater chance of winning. But when you combine 20 of these tips and strategies, boom, now you got a slight edge. You might have about 11% greater chance of winning than you did before with just some basic strategies, and now you know some more advanced strategies. That 11% is really the difference between you losing during the season or during the year or during a given week and winning. The goal is to be in the green. The goal is to make some profit. And so we're looking at some consistency here. Just wanted to identify really quick. So I think I'm on Fantasy Sharks right now. So you can find these anywhere. ESPN. I mean, just the internet's just crazy now. A lot of stuff is for free. Some tools are not for free, but consistency you can find anywhere. You can even draw it yourself pretty easily when it comes to one player, but doing it for 200 players or 150 players is insane. So yeah, just Google it, consistency, football, whatever. You'll be able to find it. And this one actually has points plus consistency. So it says how consistent players are and how good they are, which is actually a good thing when we're talking about connotation. That's a good thing. You want players that put up points on a consistent basis. So can I find a player that's consistent that sucks? I know I can. They're out there. Andy Dalton. There we go. Andy Dalton. According to this, I hope I'm looking at it right. I hope I'm not giving you false information. But yeah, Andy Dalton seems fairly consistent, but he consistently is a QB2, right? He's never a top 5 quarterback. He always puts up a whack amount of points. So yeah, it says Carson Wentz has been very consistent. Yeah, I mean, there's players that are consistent that don't do so well. Even Mason Rudolph, somewhat consistent. Just doesn't put up a lot of points. He'll get you 12 fantasy points a game or whatever. That's why he's probably benched. Anywho, yeah, player that's very consistent is going to be Ryan Tannehill. I'm not against picking him in GPP. And so this is actually, I'm looking right now for those of you that are watching live, that are watching the video or the replay. So Ryan Tannehill, this is the last 5 weeks, has been very consistent, puts up a lot of points. Depending on how you look at the metrics, sometimes he's QB2, sometimes he's QB3, maybe even QB4, depending on your scoring. Since he's got the starting job for the Titans, that's crazy. So let's just say easily a top 5 quarterback since he's got the starting gig, and he's been putting up a good amount of points, very consistent, pretty much is going to give you 20 fantasy points every week. So yeah, we absolutely do love that. This is, yes, the last 5 weeks right here. So yeah, so you got a guy who's consistent like Ryan Tannehill. Who's not consistent is Aaron Rodgers. And just to kind of give you an idea how inconsistent Aaron Rodgers is, and this is not a matter of opinion, by the way. I just want to lock that in, make that clear. And why I'm being so descriptive, why I'm getting so into consistency is actually, 1% of people listening or watching, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and they're like, get to the point. But actually, a vast majority of people don't talk about consistency to a science, to data, like to the exact standard deviation, how many fantasy points they put up from week to week. People just say, oh, he's inconsistent, he's consistent, without any, they just think that, when it's maybe not even true. Cooper, welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining, man. Appreciate you watching and listening to all my live streams. Cooper is a trooper. So, that was so stupid. Aaron Rodgers, very inconsistent this year. We've seen him put up 30 fantasy points, 40 fantasy points, even 50 fantasy points against the Raiders. He's absolutely berserk, and then he puts up 10 fantasy points. So a guy like Aaron Rodgers is something you do want to target. He has the traits to be a GPP quarterback. Yeah, and a guy like Andy Dalton does not. He's consistently bad. That's the trait. And so, you got to take it. So I'll give you one that's not necessarily true for this. So I gave you some obvious ones, like Carson Wentz. He's been consistently disappointing this year. Excuse me. Started out kind of hot, when Deshaun Jackson was healthy, Alshon was healthy, Ertz healthy, Goddard healthy, Aguilar was catching some of the balls. So he started off kind of hot, and then after that, it's been consistently bad. He's been dropped in season-long leagues. No one's starting him. And so it's like, okay, this guy doesn't have the traits to be a GPP quarterback, or even a quarterback that you'd pick in DFS at all. But he's facing the Dolphins. And what happened? Every team against the Dolphins, whoever's facing the Dolphins puts up a ton of, whichever quarterback is facing the Dolphins puts up a ton of points. Yahoo Fantasy points allowed. I want to really look this up here to give you an exact number. I'm talking about you got to know data, you got to know this, you got to know that. So I'm right here. Fantasy points allowed for quarterbacks. I brought that up super fast. Dolphins, number 3. So they allow the third. This is, maybe not, DraftKings scoring exactly or whatever, but all scoring formats are pretty similar. Still, Miami Dolphins allows the third most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And let's click on them and let's see who they play. Okay, Lamar Jackson's going to really skew the chart here, but Tom Brady did okay, Dak did okay, Rivers did okay, Case Keenum did kind of bad, Josh Allen did okay, and then Josh Allen blew up the second time they faced him. Mason Rudolph got a couple throws. So yeah, actually, this is actually pretty good. So we're seeing some quarterbacks do just okay and not great against the Dolphins, but actually they have allowed a lot of QB1s, if I'm not mistaken. I'm actually fairly certain that Josh Allen was QB1 against the Dolphins. Hard to imagine anyone puts up more than 33 fantasy points week 11 when a lot of teams are on bye. So they allowed, that's a QB1 performance right there. I wish it said that on this list that I'm looking at. So QB1 performance by Josh Allen week 11. QB1 performance by Lamar Jackson week 1. I do remember that game. Who else? Tom Brady did very well against the Dolphins, 24 fantasy points. Any other QB1 performances? Probably not. Baker did very well. He wasn't QB1. I believe he was QB3, something like that. Or 4. He did very well. Yeah, probably QB4. So yeah, they allow a ton of points to quarterbacks. What are we talking about now? What tangent did we get off on? Erman, welcome to the live stream. Erman's going to keep me grounded here. No more tangents. Erman says Allen or Sanders. Who's Allen? Is that Keenan Allen? Emmanuel? There's too many players. There's a Josh Allen. There's a Keenan Allen. There's a Kyle Allen. Probably another Allen I'm not thinking of. There's a Miles Sanders and an Emmanuel Sanders. And so I have no clue, Urban, who you're talking about. I assume Allen is the wide receiver. And I assume Sanders is the wide receiver as well. Or could be running back. Yeah, Keenan Allen. So give me a second here. And which Sanders are you talking about? Emmanuel? So Keenan Allen, bad matchup against the Broncos, but he'll get a good amount of targets. And then we have Emmanuel Sanders, Miles Sanders. So I love Miles Sanders, by the way. Jordan Howard is out. Miles Sanders is going to be chalk. He's going to be great. Emmanuel Sanders is a player that you want to bench. You definitely don't want to start Emmanuel Sanders. So whatever you're probably talking about DFS, I'm sure. So whatever you're talking about, don't. Emmanuel Sanders is not a good pick. He's really no one's gonna pick Emmanuel Sanders, so he will be very contrarian. Ravens D has been on fire. Where's my intern? Where's my staff at? Can you pull Jamie, can you pull up the I wish I had like somebody to do all this. I love just hosting. I love doing video and stuff, but man, multitasking is not my thing. I cannot multitask. I really just want to show here. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know why, but this episode I really wanna show the stats. So anyway, the Ravens have been not that good until they traded for Marcus Peters, and now they're on fire. They're like the best defense. They're so good. How do we edit this? Okay. Ravens defense. Nope, they don't play. Oh, they do play. Okay. Ravens defense. So they look 4 fantasy. So the first week they did good against the Dolphins, and then they got 4 fantasy points, 0 fantasy points, -1 fantasy points, 5 fantasy points, 5 fantasy points. Then they trade for Marcus Peters from the Rams. Ooh, Rams franchise not looking so good right now. Now look right after the trade. 18 fantasy points, 13, 24, 15, and 13. So the lowest they've scored was 13 fantasy points, and that's against the Patriots and the Rams. A lot of sacks, a lot of turnovers, a few touchdowns. They've been great. Oh, if it's Miles Sanders, yes, go with Miles Sanders for sure. Miles Sanders is the man. Yeah, definitely start Miles Sanders. Jordan Howard is out. Eagles are going against the Dolphins. A lot of big play opportunities for Miles Sanders. A lot of touchdown opportunities. Yeah, Ravens defense has just been on fire. To me, that's hands down the game of the week. Some good like Bills versus Cowboys was great for Turkey Day. But looking forward, it's my 49ers going against the Ravens. This is going to be an intense game. I thought the Packers-Niners game was going to be super close. And I saw the Niners winning by maybe 7 points. That didn't go as planned. Ravens-Niners should actually be very competitive and close. Maybe Lamar Jackson balls out. Maybe he doesn't. Niners defense is very sound, very good. Best D-line in the game. Can we get D Ford back? Then we'll have a great rotation at the D-line. D4 didn't play against the Packers, and they still absolutely obliterated Aaron Rodgers. Let's see what happens. This is going to be the game of the week. We're talking about 2 of the top 3 teams. I mean, however you want to rank it. Ravens could be number 1. Niners could be number 1. Patriots could be number 1 on your list, and I'm not going to argue. But all 3 of those teams are on absolute fire. It's definitely those 3 teams at the top, and then maybe you have the Saints at number 4 or 5, something like that. But that's going to be the game of the week right there. So anyway, consistency, it's always something good to look at. I honestly don't look at these charts often unless I'm coming up with content, but it's something to always keep in mind. You know, I'm always looking at the game log and seeing how many fantasy points these guys put up on a week-to-week basis. So I always know statistically, is a player consistent or inconsistent? Do they have a high ceiling, which is what we look for GPPs and tournaments? Or do they have a high floor, which is what we look for cash games, head-to-head, 50-50s, double-ups? Moving on. Here are some picks. And, oh yeah, what else did I want to talk about? I want to talk about the weather. My God, the weather is really becoming a factor now. I'm actually getting a little bit scared. I tell everyone, don't worry about the weather. It's all good. But now some games are changing, and I love Patrick Mahomes, but if we have 20-mile-an-hour winds, I don't know if I want to pick him. He's the most expensive quarterback this week. He'll still do good, but that's going to hurt his ceiling just a little bit. So what happens? What happens on games where there's a lot of wind? I made this bigger. There we go. That looks much better. So when there's a lot of wind, and I'm talking 15, 20 miles an hour or greater, there's going to be less passes down the field, so the passes get shorter. On top of that, teams attempt less passes and run the ball more when it's more windy, when the winds are stronger. This is proven. This is what you do, and we've all seen it. For those that watch a lot of football, we've all seen Peyton Manning struggle to throw it in the wind when they're going against the wind. We've seen a lot of things happen. We've seen kickers miss field goals because of swirly winds that are a little bit unpredictable, strong winds. And so wind is an important factor. Rain, not so much. Now, there is rain where you do want to worry, but most of the time, rain is actually almost a non-factor because people ask, oh, how about if somebody falls? And I'm like, well, that could be a defensive play. You don't know who's going to fall. Being a cornerback that's slippery, right? Because you don't know which direction you're going to break, and the wide receiver does. So, yeah, wide receiver could fall. Running back could fall. Also, a cornerback could fall. Or they might play a little bit slower so they won't fall. So, rain, not as big of a deal. Of course, if you have like crazy, insane rain, that's going to make a big difference. Yeah, of course. For sure. And people talk about, you fumble during the rain. Well, the opposite team could be the one that's fumbling, and then boom, you get the team you got your quarterback on, they recover it, short field, easy touchdown right then and there. And so those type of things are harder to predict. Also, the worse weather calls for lower scoring games as well. This is statistically proven. So this is all true. Look, I'm defending like weather's not as important. And now what I'm saying is most people overreact to the weather than underreact. Weather, of course, affects the game. Professional gambler. Why can't I talk today? I felt like I was talking good. Now I'm not talking. Now I forgot how to talk. Quick break while I take a sip of water and regroup. What the hell's wrong with me? All right, I'm ready. Professional gamblers look at the lines. World-class gamblers look at the lines. They go, oh, rain's coming all of a sudden. And then it's very windy, scratch the rain. It's very windy all of a sudden. We didn't think it was going to be this windy 3 days ago when the lines were at whatever. And then they go and they put some smart money, some big bucks on the under now. Okay, so it's very windy. That means statistically, windy games have less scoring, more running, shorter passes, less touchdowns, less scoring. What does that mean for us? That means less fantasy points overall. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. And I went on the record a couple days ago on my YouTube channel, my podcast, Fantasy Couch. And I was saying, hey, Patrick Mahomes, my number one quarterback in DFS, maybe changing my mind this week if these winds pick up or calm down. Most of the time they pick up. But right now saying 20 miles an hour, I don't like that. Because if it goes to 21 or 24 or 26 or 27, that's going to be insane. And I'm not going to like Tyreek Hill. Because Tyreek Hill, the only way he's going to get a big play is if he takes a screen pass to the house or something like that. Because you're not throwing those 50-yard bombs that Mahomes throws every game if the wind is like 27 miles an hour. Cooper says, who do I like more this week? Emmanuel Sanders or Brandon Cooks? This is a very tough question, and I kind of give you props for this question. I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. It's super risky. Sanders has a higher floor. He's much safer, much more trustworthy. But I'm going to go Brandon Cooks in a sweet matchup. We have to kind of forget what's going on and just concentrate on this week. Who's going to do better? And I think that's going to be a Rams wide receiver. Brandon Cooks didn't seem to get a lot of snaps. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I did see a lot of Josh Reynolds playing. Of course, Cooper Kupp and Woods was lined up all the time. But I didn't see that much Brandon Cooks his first game back from that concussion. How many weeks? He missed like 6 weeks or something. So I'm hoping he'll get a lot more snaps. He'll be more acclimated. This is a great game for him to do some things. So I would go with Brandon Cooks over Emmanuel Sanders. RAG, what's up, my friend? Start Christian Kirk, Scary Terry, or Chris Conley. So Christian Kirk, I just don't think you want to bench him. Not right now, not at this stage. And Scary Terry is too much to start. And then Chris Conley, what is he, like the third option in that pass game? So I'm definitely going with Christian Kirk. Kirk is becoming a guy you really don't ever want to bench, pretty much. High-end wide receiver too. Exactly why, people liked him so much in fantasy before the year. And now it's been panning out. It's Christian Kirk is the man. let's go through some picks, and then we'll end. Oh, by the way, what movies are good, guys? I don't know why I want to talk about some. I think we're so blessed with some great movies this year, and I'm very thankful for it. I'm not doing this because of the Thanksgiving thing. I'm just very thankful, very grateful that we have great movies. For those of you that know me well, maybe, but probably not. I am a film major. That was my full-time job before I made fantasy. My full-time job was a videographer. So I did a lot of music videos, wedding videos. I love films. I love them so much. What kind of films do I like? I like the original Star Wars movies. I love Raging Bull, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. I love movies like that. I gotta watch The Irishman. I love horror movies. Martyrs was a good one. I think that movie's French, but they speak English too, I think. English and French a lot in that movie. Crazy movie. So yeah, and man, I'm just grateful we have movies like Joker. I absolutely love Joker, and I'm gonna watch a Star Wars movie. But I think Mandalorian's better than Star Wars movies. They get a little bit corny. I don't know about the plot. I think it's being pulled in too many directions. Oh, we got to make money. We got to do this. We got to put this here. We have to insert romantic scene, insert joke. Like, it's so dumb. I'm going to watch it. I'm still excited. Let's see what happens. Because even though the last Star Wars movie was some parts were ruined, some parts were also very amazing too. It's like it's like Aaron Rodgers, like some scenes were just like amazing, legendary, and then some scenes were like, please erase this from my memory. Why'd you guys put this in? But Mandalorian is awesome. People are making they're keeping the Baby Yoda memes alive, and I love it. People are making Baby Yoda memes of me. But yeah, who do I like this week? I like Aaron Rodgers and GPP for quarterbacks. How does this look? This looks good. Right there we go. That looks great. That looks awesome. Aaron Rodgers priced at 6,500 on DraftKings. Let me clear this. There we go. So yeah, Patrick Mahomes, not gonna pick him if it's windy. If it's over 20 miles an hour, I'm not gonna pick Mahomes. But that does mean LaShawn McCoy is pretty good. Damian Williams is out. I like Jared Goff going against the Cardinals in a dome. That's a great one there. People are scared of him because he pooped 3 times in a row. But I think he'll have a huge bounce back game against the Cardinals. They allow the most points to quarterbacks in fantasy. Nick Foles going against the Bucks. Danny Dimes is another one. Definitely want to mention him as far as inconsistent goes, high ceiling goes. We see him get here 12 fantasy points, 37 fantasy points, 5 fantasy points, 10 fantasy points, 30 fantasy points. And then he goes back down to 11, then back down to 33. So very inconsistent, high upside, could turn the ball over, makes big plays, but also makes bad decisions and fumbles the ball a lot. So that's the type of quarterback we do want in a GPP, and we know the Giants are going to have to throw the ball. Who else we got? Yeah, for running backs, I do like Christian McCaffrey. I think he's worth the price. Saquon Barkley, his price is super cheap. I like him. We need him more involved. He needs to get more targets in the pass game, but he's only priced at 7,400. Now, here's the chalk. We talked about this already, but Miles Sanders, price at 5,400 with Jordan Howard. Look, Jordan Howard is out. Check. Matchup, Miami Dolphins. Check. Game script. Check. Eagles will win. That's usually better for running backs on the winning team. Price. Check. Is he game script proof? As in, can he catch? Can he run? Can he be the goal line back? Yes, he can do it all. So he's in case the Dolphins do score a bunch of points on the Eagles or something, Miles Sanders will actually be more involved because he's probably the best pass catching back on the team. Ajayi and Josh Adams, who get some run, they don't really catch the ball well. Yep, and I like the Chiefs running backs with Damian Williams out. We have LaShawn McCoy priced super cheap at 4,800. Yeah, that's very cheap. And then we also have Darrell Williams priced at 4,400. Like that a lot. And if you want to be contrarian, I love Jamal Williams over Aaron Jones as a contrarian pick. Look, I project Aaron Jones to score twice as many fantasy points as Jamal Williams. But Jamal Williams has outscored Aaron Jones in the fantasy points department 3 out of 11 weeks. It's definitely something to note. Who else we got? Alshon should be playing, right? I think it's technically a game time decision. Alshon Jeffrey, 5,100. Where you at? Dang, we got to scroll quite a bit. Alshon Jeffrey, 5,100. Sterling Shepard, 4,900. Golden Tate is out. Evan Ingram is out. And also the backup tight end, Rhett Ellison. All three are out for the Giants. I mean, Sterling Shepard is going to get at least 7 targets. Probably way more. Nelson Aguilar, 4,400 in that same game. Who else we got? That's pretty much it. Chester Rogers, if you're looking for a really cheap wide receiver, I'm a little bit intrigued with him. Has he ever done anything? Nah, he doesn't have enough upside, but he's super cheap. Not too many good cheap receivers. Auden Tate, 3,800. Yeah. If you're looking for a cheap one, that's a good one. I like this guy because I feel like he has some touchdown upside. Let's see what he does with Dalton. A bit of an unknown here. And I think he's 6'5". So yeah, that's why he has that touchdown upside. For tight ends, see, look, wide receiver Tyreek Hill's 8,900. That's too expensive with that type of wind. But Travis Kelce doesn't catch 50-yard bombs like Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce could actually be better in the wind with those 10-yard passes, those 5-yard passes, and rack up a lot of points. Look at this, 20-plus fantasy points last 2 weeks. Then they had a bye. Andy Reid is amazing coming off a bye week. Did he have a bye? Am I doing that right? Did the Chiefs? Yeah, the Chiefs had a bye week 12. That's right. I do have Mahomes in one league, so I do know that. Yeah, and so coming off a bye, Andy Reid is amazing. Travis Kelce's kind of getting his groove back. He'll probably reclaim that number 1 tight end spot. Well, he's Kittle's number 1 tight end if you go by average per game. So he's not really tight end 1. Yeah, Kelce should have that tight end 1 spot locked up for this year like he usually does. I'm not going to go over any of these expensive tight ends, but a cheap tight end that I love is Dallas Goedert. 4,100 going against the Dolphins. Ertz is questionable. Good chance he plays, but I think Goddard's the one you want because the price is so cheap. And Goddard has outperformed Ertz a few times as well. Jonnu Smith, 3,300. Jack Doyle, 3,300 as well. Eric Ebron is on IR. Delaney Walker is on IR. Those guys are both out, so Doyle and Jonnu gets a huge boost. Sleeper tight end, Caden Smith, third-string tight end for the Giants. I'm actually picking him in some lineups. And Tyler Higbee, I'm not going to be able to find you. Tyler Higbee with Gerald Everett out. Tyler Higbee, minimum price going against the Cardinals. You got to love that right there. Who are my top kickers? I did not write this down, but off the top of my head, it was Will Lutz, Greg Zuerlein, and Jake Elliott, and Harrison Butker. Those are my elite options at kickers. I do study kickers a lot. That's why I know my top 4 off the top of my head. And then would come Justin Tucker, believe it or not. Justin Tucker will be ranked like number 5 or 6. For defenses, I love the Eagles D, man. Woo! 3,600. That's super cheap. I think that's really it. Just pick the Eagles D. You're good to go. If you want to save, you can go with the Chargers. 3,100. I like that. Chiefs was one I was considering, but they're 300 less. So if the wind does pick up, let's say the conditions get much worse. Let's say it rains or snows all of a sudden, and the wind is crazy. So we got some kind of blizzard going. Then I like the Chiefs D because the Raiders' pass game will be irrelevant. It'll be all 3-yard passes, and they'll run the ball. And the Chiefs should be able to, to game plan for this and just win it. It's in Kansas City, too, by the way. They're coming off a bye. Andy Reid, great coach. They're pretty healthy. Raiders are not healthy. They're missing Hunter Renfrow. They didn't do good last week. And so this is a game the Chiefs should easily win. So it's one to consider, and definitely look at the weather. So what's up, Adam China in the building? What's up, man? So yeah, I wanted to keep this podcast to like 5 minutes, but then I think this is one of the longer ones. So yeah, everyone enjoy the movies, enjoy the holidays. Yeah, this is great. Check out consistency. Keep updated on the weather. So Sunday morning, check the weather. Check the weather. Don't overreact to the weather. Make sure you guys are playing DFS on NoLimitFantasySports.com. We use the same salary cap pricing as DraftKings, so it's super easy. Tons of free rolls every week. Tons of great prizes every week. Bonus prizes. And, of course, we have great tournaments. Right now, there's an overlay. Might last Sunday morning. So make sure you check it out. Overlays, free rolls, bonus prizes. Check out NoLimitFantasySports.com. I play on there every week. My username on there is Fantasy Couch. Good luck this week, everyone in DFS. Enjoy football. And that's it. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, No Limit Coin, No Limit Fantasy Sports. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Leave a review. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all the podcast platforms pretty much. We're on all of them. Good luck this week, everyone. Peace out.